get us out of our doldrums, then why not? Thank you.
The next question deals with a somewhat related issue, which is the issue of race, which obviously this year has become very big. And Charlie will ask that question.
Mr. Hamilton, what about race relations in America today?
Charlie, I first would like to say I am extremely proud that we have the opportunity and the chance to have a black president. In my day, I believed that the blacks should be free. They have as many brains as we do. I grew up in the West Indies, which for every one white, there were 12 black. I would like to give my economic origin of racism for you all. Blacks are as smart as anyone. The belief they are not is a prejudice. The prejudice is founded on self-interest. Thank you.
We're now going to turn to the issue that was dominating this particular election, which is the war. And Matt will ask the first question in this area.
Mr. Hamilton, what should happen if it's discovered that the President engaged our troops in a military action in another nation under false pretenses?
What should happen if it is discovered that the President engaged our troops in a military action in another nation under false pretenses? Some would maintain that we should reduce our military strength in times of peace to limit the likelihood that the President, with or without Congress, could employ our troops abroad under false pretenses. They contend if a strong military force is maintained during peacetime, this would cost a great many federal dollars. According to their logic, this would be an unnecessary use of federal funds because we could rely on our militia in times of peace rather than a regular army. Others would go further and argue that our policy should never be to strike first in a military situation. We should resist the temptation to use our military force before being attacked, according to their argument, because it might endanger liberty and would go against the principles of a free government. They contend that we must first receive the blow before even preparing to return it. If either argument actually served to guide the nation, this would be foolhardy. We cannot expose our property and liberty to the mercy of foreign invaders and invite them by our weakness to seize us as naked and defenseless prey. We should never allow this driven by a fear that our ruler might threaten liberty by an abuse of the means necessary for its preservation. We should never be dupes to the suggestion that a regular and disciplined army is not essential for keeping our independence even in times of peace. Our revolutionary experiences informed us that a militia, regardless of its valor and effort, cannot stand against a regular military force. War is a science to be acquired and perfected by diligence, perseverance, time, and practice. We should be reluctant in adopting measures that would compromise our nation's ability to use military force. Wise politicians will be cautious about fettering the government with restrictions that run counter to the necessities of society. They will know that such restrictions will lead them to the breaches of laws due to necessity and will serve as precedents for other breaches that are not dictated by necessity and are much less urgent. Thank you.
As a follow-up question to that, R.C. McBride.
Mr. Hamilton, do you think the national government should base its policies on an expectation of being in a state of peace with the rest of the world?
R.C. If we mean to be a commercial people, it must form a part of our policy to be able one day to defend that commerce. The support of our military must baffle all the political arguments that propose a novel and absurd experiment of tying up the hands of the government from offensive war. We should certainly not disable the government from guarding the community against the ambition or enmity of other nations and groups. A cloud has been for some time hanging over the Middle East. If it should break forth into a storm, who can ensure us that in its progress, a part of its fury would not be spent upon us? No reasonable man would hastily pronounce that we are entirely out of its reach. Or if the combustible materials that now seem to be collecting should be dissipated without coming to maturity, or if a flame should be kindled, what is it to say that we just won't get burned? Let us recollect that peace or war will not always be left to our option, that however moderate or unambitious we may be, we cannot count upon the moderation or hope to extinguish the ambition of others. To judge from the history of mankind, we shall be compelled to conclude that the fiery and destructive passions of war reign in the human breast with much more powerful sway than the mild and beneficent sentiments of peace, and that to model our political systems upon speculations of lasting tranquility is to calculate on the weaker springs of the human character.